Alaska is the center of the universe. We are in one of the best locations. We're such a strategic location that we actually have in the top five busiest airports in the world. We're actually, I think, about number three with the amount of cargo that comes through our state. Not only that, we are also strategically located as a military position for the United States and for North America. And once the Northern Passage opens up, it's going to be the shortest route from Europe to Asia. So Alaska, like our future is bright. We just actually have to manage how we go into that future so we're in control of it, that we're no longer held hostage by these boom and bust cycles, and that we're also not being taken advantage of by out of state, corporate billionaire wealth. Hello, we have received some great questions on our YouTube page and on our Facebook page. We rolled out answering a lot of the questions around our policies and platforms. And so the question has come in about how do we pay for all of this? We're going to provide services and invest in prevention, planning, and care, which is more affordable than crisis management. We're going to demand what is due to Alaskans, especially because our Constitution says maximum benefit of Alaskans is required if we're monetizing anything in our state. So making sure that that's happening. And three, bringing in new industry that's spurred on by Alaskans, funded in Alaska, and building our economy here and building our exports. We're going to also be prepared for increased tourism too, up across the North Slope. There's going to be more tour ships, more people coming into the state wanting to see Alaska. And so we need to make sure that we prepare our communities for that and so that they can invite it in on their own terms and that we're ensuring the safety and stability of the communities as they transition. And really what we've seen, is not only 8 years of austerity, but actually 12. So we have 12 years of cuts and our infrastructure, our programs, our services, everything is showing the wear and tear. We have outward migration, loss of public service employees, loss of trade skills, the loss of families who have youth in school because they want to take them to states that have better education. Because the cuts happened without thinking about the downstream effects, when they're cutting some of these services, it might have made the number balance out at the bottom. But what happened is now our public safety and justice system is not only the biggest thing in the budget, but it's way over budget. And so that's what happens when you don't have that holistic thinking and care. In our Constitution, we have certain services that are guaranteed to the people, and to cut them or deliver them in a shoddy way is inappropriate. It's not being honest, and it's not upholding the agreement that the state government has with the Alaskan people. So when we're looking at this budget, it's not difficult for us to see places that we can improve upon it. Planning, prevention, and care is always more affordable than crisis management. Looking at investing in VPSOs in our rural communities, they're going to pay for themselves because even just sending out one medevac flight out into rural Alaska is going to save $100,000, right? Looking at our guardians programs and on the land stewards who are doing indigenous fire methods, controlled intentional burning in the winter, that's going to reduce the costs that we spend of $73 million in the summer on fighting forest fires. And we can see this repetitively throughout our whole budget. And so not only are we going to save money by actually intentionally putting in the services that are going to make a difference, but we're also going to increase revenue by closing the S Corp loophole and making sure that corporations that are making millions, if not billions of dollars off our economy and taking the money out of the state, that they're paying their fair share in taxes, as well as looking at our oil fields up north and making sure that they're paying their taxes and royalties. And not only that, but we're going to look at the PFD and address the way that it's run. Because right now, Our whole budget, the permanent fund, it's being based off a barrel of oil, and that's not sustainable. That's boom and bust. Like, who in their right mind plans their retirement, their budget, their future, their household accounts on commodities, right? Like, if you know anything about trading, it's not smart. So we're going to look at adjusting the formula to actually look at what the fund is producing, how it's performing, and then basing our budget and our permanent fund off of that, and putting into law a 4% price of market value draw that's then split 50% between the state and 50% between the permanent fund. And so that way it's stable and consistent, and people aren't guessing. We're not haggling and fighting. It's not like something that we can use as a bargaining chip for elections or for legislature to get them to do what the governor wants to do. We're taking that off the table and we're making it consistent so Alaskans can then actually budget and plan for the future. And the state can too. If we had 20 billion more dollars in our permanent fund, our state would actually be totally self-sufficient, relying on the fund to provide services. And so that's part of our goal is not only are we going to not draw down the fund, but we're going to build the fund to become self-sufficient, creating more industry here in the state. So you may have heard me say before, we bring in 95% of our food and goods, and we don't have a lot of manufacturing here. A lot of what we produce is actually taken out of the state as raw materials. And if you've done anything in business with manufacturing or production, selling wholesale bulk materials is the least effective way to make money. I know this through making plant medicine, and teaching on how to make salves and providing those kinds of services. If you can make your item, your raw material, into a product, then that's where you're actually going to get the most money is in that sale of a finished product. So looking at growing food here, and not only growing food here, but growing enough that we can export food out to our neighbors, maybe even over to, Whitehorse, and then creating products with our food. Alaska has an amazing reputation around the world. We have a reputation for being beautiful and pristine and wild, and the best foods in the world, the hardiest people, everything. We have the great publicity. So why don't we use that and create more products here at home? Right now, pretty much all of our recycling is shipped out of state. There's only one, maybe two recycling efforts that produce, there's the one where they're doing the composite wood out of plastic and wood fiber. And every once in a while, we have somebody who invests in recycling glass. Let's actually use what we can instead of shipping it out, using it to create raw materials and producing it into things that we need to actually spur on industry. We have the renewable energy that we're going to be bringing in and investing in across the state with our communities, especially as we're moving them to new locations, making sure that when they move, it's the village of the future. It's a village that they create. How do they want to enter into the 21st century? And what does that look like with energy infrastructure, with data sovereignty, with healthy, homes that are efficient, with the ability to grow food in their location, because there's enough energy available to do that. Also accommodations, for opening up of the Northwest Passage. We are going to see shipping routes opening up, and that's one of the reasons that they're building that $600 million port in Nome. It's a deep water port. There's also probably going to be one in Utqiagvik. Alaska literally is the center of the universe. So saving money, making sure we get what's due to us, increasing economic stability, create industry here and production here, but then we also are going to have renewable energy, so energy surplus, and capitalizing on our future. What needed to happen is to have a governor that's not bought off by industry, that's not building themselves a golden parachute, that's not conniving and making deals behind your back. You need somebody who is Alaskan, who's going to fight for Alaskans and make sure that not only does the state get their due, but you get your fair share as well.